maybe it's just a bad trailer? Please? Alright guys, welcome back to Very Right or Very Wrong, the show where we take a look at trailers and decide, exactly as the title implies, whether it's very right or very wrong. Today we're going to look at Hellboy, which is the newest reboot of the Hellboy franchise after they decided not to go with Hellboy 3 for whatever reason. Nobody's got some discussion on that as well, because you kind of have to. But in the meantime, the trailer for the reboot just came out last week, and I thought we'd take a little look at it. It doesn't look as good as I was hoping, and I really had high hopes that this was going to take things a bit of a different direction, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's not waste any more time. Let's talk about Hellboy. Let's start with the pros. Alright, so pro number one, I think this movie's got a pretty decent cast. So, I have Ian McShane playing the Professor, you have David Arbor playing Hellboy, you have Milla Jovovich, who I'm glad she's in more movies outside of the Resident Evil movies, because I feel like she just gets a bad rep in general because of those crappy things. But she plays the villain, apparently, who is Nemu the Blood Queen. I'm looking up IMDb right now. And she looks like she is perfect for the role. She is great at that kind of cheesy, campy quality, and that looks like it's definitely exactly what this character calls for. So I'm looking forward to that, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, I think David Arbor is a good replacement for Ron Perlman. There will be some discussion on that, because again, it's kind of hard not to talk about that, because Ron Perlman was such an iconic Hellboy for the first two movies. But for now, I think David Arbor is going to be okay. And of course, Ian McShane, I think, is a very interesting choice for the Professor, but I love Ian McShane, so I'm still down for it regardless. Next pro I would say is I think some of the monster designs look really cool. Like you have that one monster has like a giant sword for an arm that slashes Hellboy into whatever. I think that looks cool. I like the design of the weird king you see next to the werewolf. I like the trolls look good, and also that house with the chicken legs. That's part of the one myth that I always forget what it's called. And some monster designs look pretty cool, and for a movie that's about Hellboy and all involves around the supernatural stuff, the design of the monsters are pretty important. This one looks like it delivers on that front. In fact, just as a pro all around, I would say the visuals overall look pretty solid. The characters look pretty good. The cinematography looks good. It looks like it's gonna be well shot. The design for like the classic gun and all that stuff, all that stuff looks pretty good. I think it's going to be a good-looking movie and very encapsulating of the Hellboy franchise, especially the shot at the end where he has like the flaming crown, the flaming sword. That looks really cool. So there's a lot of cool elements, and I think it has good actors and a possible good direction, but that's really where we start getting into the negatives. So let's just start talking about cons now. Alright, so con number one, and to be fair, this isn't really David Arbor's fault, but it does come to the fact that the movie they're presenting here, and I don't know how indicative it is of how the actual movie's going to be, because I know Titans had the same problem, and I heard Titans actually not that bad, even though I haven't watched it personally. But the tone this trailer is presenting very much makes it look like Hellboy 1 and 2, which also just begs the question, why not just make Hellboy 3? Is it because Ron Perlman's too old, or they just didn't want to work with Guillermo del Toro again? I don't really know what the exact reason is, but this movie feels overall rather unnecessary when Ron Perlman's still very much up for playing the role of Hellboy to begin with. And again, I think David Arbor is going to be a suitable replacement, but Ron Perlman was such an iconic Hellboy, and he's so perfected the part, so much so that his actual facial structure already pretty much matched the character. All they really had to do was add the horns onto his head, and he was Hellboy. It was pretty easy to do. This movie definitely looks like there's a lot more prosthetics involved as far as David Arbor is concerned. And again, I think David Arbor is going to do a fine performance, but he definitely looks much more uncomfortable in the prosthetics. It feels like they're adding too much into it. Like, the hair looks kind of weird to me. The contacts, I don't know if Ron Perlman had contacts in the movie or not, but these ones look very noticeable and very uncomfortable, and that's the way I would describe David Arbor's body language throughout the trailer, is he just looks very uncomfortable in all his prosthetic makeup, because you can tell they widened his face up, they added the horns, but they also added, I feel like too much on the top of his head, so it looks like it's squishing down the rest of his face, which I feel like is going to limit his ability to emote. But again, hopefully David Arbor's a good enough actor that he can work past that, but as it is right now, Hellboy almost looks too angry and too uncomfortable in every shot he's in, and I think that's a big problem to be worried about. And that honestly kind of encapsulates a lot of my issues with the trailer in general, which goes on the second con, which again is just the tone and the feel. Like, this movie feels so much like the first two movies that it doesn't really make sense why they didn't just make a third movie, except for the fact they didn't trust audiences to remember the first two for whatever reason. Now, I've never been a huge fan of the Hellboy movies. I really liked the first one. I thought the second one was just kind of eh. But I still can't fault like the designs and the creativity and imagination that Hellboy 1 and 2 had. And this movie definitely feels a lot more generic in comparison to those. Like, it feels kind of like a high budget supernatural episode or something along those lines. Now, from what I understand, that the idea for this movie was take it closer to the comics and the dark noir stuff from those films, and maybe it still is, but this trailer does not do a really good job of expressing that. And it feels like it's going for a much more comedic element, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but that also goes back into, well, the first movie did that, so why not just go back into that more, but instead we're doing this. The other comment I would say is, I think the characters they're choosing to put in the front of this movie aren't as interesting as the ones they had in the last movie. And that goes to the category, if you're going to do a reboot that a lot of people don't really feel like you need, you should at least replace it with characters that feel like fresh and new, and kind of like a reason to check out the reboot. Like, the first movie had Abe and Liz and like the ghost guy from the last movie whose name I'm forgetting. But instead here you have Daniel Kim as Ben Diamo. I hope I'm saying that right. And some woman named Alice, and they just kind of look like generic human people. And the fun of the Hellboy movies is seeing all these kind of wacky characters, all these wacky allies that Hellboy teams up with, and all those stuff. Like, why can't we have Abe back in here? Abe was a great character. Abe has a great design, but I guess they just didn't want to do that for some reason. Maybe because they're worried about using too much, having to rely too much on CGI, even though they did perfectly fine practical effects in the last movie. But I guess Doug Jones is busy. But either way, it does feel like a wasted opportunity to make a Hellboy reboot and then add more boring characters onto the franchise to cling to, with the most striking one being Hellboy, which I guess isn't necessarily a bad thing, but again, it feels like a wasted opportunity. Now again, it's too early to say how this is going to go, or what it's going to look like, or if those are the only characters that Hellboy teams up with, because I'm looking at IMDb right now. Look, there's also a character called Lobster Johnson, who I don't know who that is, but sounds amazing, and I don't know why that's not in the trailer, but for now, just going off of the trailer it doesn't seem like while the monster design looks cool, it doesn't feel like there's enough of it. And for a Hellboy movie, that feels like a waste. So for now, I would say, like, I don't have a whole lot to say about this trailer because the trailer doesn't show all that much, but I think the overall impression I'm getting from this is that, well, it certainly has the right, it has a good cast, and it has, like, of course, you always gotta love fantasy elements, and it definitely got some of the designs right, some of the monsters look cool. It doesn't do enough to justify its existence as a reboot. It doesn't justify why they didn't just make a third one. It doesn't justify why we need David Arbor rather than Ron Perlman. So far, it hasn't really justified his existence enough to really get me excited about it. Now, maybe that'll change as more trailers come out, or when the actual movie comes out. Maybe the tone of the movie is very, very different, and they're just trying to market it like a Marvel movie because that's what's popular right now, which for Lionsgate would not necessarily surprise me if that's what they were doing, because they've done that before. So right now, this is very much up in the air. Right now, I'm kind of leaning more like it doesn't look very good, and I'm hoping I'm wrong, because I would love to see David Arbor do good at Hellboy. I would love to be Hellboy to go more mainstream than he currently is, and I definitely would like them also to go back to the darker tone of the Mongolia comics. Am I saying that right? I hope I am, but yeah, this trailer is disappointing, and hopefully it doesn't stay that way, and yeah, we'll see. But right now, Hellboy doesn't look very good, so hopefully that will change. But that's all I got for this trailer, guys. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye. Oh, and also make sure to let me know in the comments if there's any trailers you want me to look at, and I'll try to make time for it as soon as I can. Okay, now that's it for real. Bye-bye.